All right, thanks, Andrew. So it's about 1 minute past the top of the hour. We can go ahead and get started. So on today's agenda, all that was initially on there when the agenda went out was just the school calendar. But Dr. Moyer and I had a discussion right after our last board meeting about the discussion of adding back in a good old-fashioned snow day, and I told him that we could breach it at this meeting and discuss it. So that's going to be on the agenda as well. It really isn't on the formal agenda, but we can discuss that after the calendar. With that being said, I'll kick it over to Dr. Perrin, and you can take it from there. You're on mute, Dr. P.
Hey, thanks. So this is a second draft. Jane had gone in and made some changes based on the discussion at the last meeting. So this is draft number 2. Timeline at this point in terms of calendar being approved. What I would be looking to try to do is to take this to the February 4th board meeting as an informational item, and then approval on the second meeting in February. That'll allow me to take it to the administrative team at the end of this month. So we can make any adjustments from draft 2 that you all see before we do that, of course. I know that a number of you have looked at this between the first and second draft to kind of get it to where it is. We're kind of with this calendar, we're kind of starting as late as we really like to start. And that's just providing a little bit of extra time for some of the project work being done at the high school. And we're still trying to have commencement in that last student day be the last Friday in May, which has traditionally been when we've done that. So that pretty much, compresses everything else within there. And double checking, I'll ask Sean because Sean may have added these up. Sean, are those the marking period and semesters? Do those work for you all right now?
Yeah, I think those looked good. Can you just clarify? And Jane and I were going back and forth. Can you clarify that in August, either the 19th or the 20th is acting as an Act 80 day, and that's how we have the 8 days?
Yeah, that's August 20th would be an Act 80 day.
Okay. Yeah, I know I counted backwards to the end. The 14th is 45 days till the end, which would then give it would be, well, not 45, 90. Then the first semester, I guess, technically is 89 days, and the second semester is 90 days.
Yep, that works.
Okay.
And we retained those early dismissal professional development days in October and March that we had on this year's calendar, but just weren't really able to use. We ended up just going full, because those were Fridays, we ended up going full remote instructional days and full instructional days for elementary. So they were on this year's calendar, but we're hoping that perhaps next year's calendar, we get to use them for what they were actually intended for. We were able to retain those. And then beyond that, we have the requisite number of student days when you count the Act 80 day, and we have the requisite number of contractual days for the association, I believe. So the question that Mike, that you brought up that you and Al had discussed, it's kind of, I don't see it kind of as a separate thing. I would think that it's kind of part of what we're looking at in terms of the calendar. The district applied for and was granted the use of flexible instructional days. And pretty much every district in PA did that once. I think COVID kind of pushed that forward more than it might have been pushed forward in certain parts of the state. But, as districts became a little bit more able and comfortable with doing remote learning, The idea of closing things down and, not having instruction became less of an issue. So most districts applied for it. We were approved for a three-year stint, current year, next year, and year after, as with most of our neighbors. We're only able to use 5 of those. So if we would have 5 snow days, for instance, those could be remote learning days, and our calendar is still fine the way it is. If for some reason we would have a 6th or 7th snow day, we would have to start adding makeup days on this calendar, like May 30th, May 31st, June 1st, kind of going across that week. On this year's calendar, we really couldn't adjust it because we had to front load so much PD at the beginning of this year to make sure that kind of folks were comfortable in jumping in with what we were doing instructionally, that we're kind of, we're just getting in what we need to get in, following our calendar the rest of the way out. In future years, you can build in snow days. The problem is then those have to go, you either have to start earlier, go later, or start really kind of messing around with your PD days, your other days off, those kinds of things. I'm certainly a fan of the snow. I do my share of cross country skiing. I will say I'm not very good at it. So one of the questions I would have for the teachers on the committee is, if we have a snow day and we're on remote learning, how much screen time is required? Is there still time to play in the snow?
I asked, I'm sorry, Axel.
I can give a little context. I'm sorry, I can give a little context before the teachers chime in. I think when Al and I were having the discussion and some of the folks had approached us to talk about it, is with COVID-19 bringing on remote learning and all of the districts getting very efficient at it, I think the initial fear is the snow days have died. And our thought process was in introducing this is if there was that one epic or the first epic snow of the year where we kind of got a really good storm, 10 inches, kind of to give everybody a little time to go out and go sledding and kind of celebrate that. Because, really with the ability to be able to switch gears and offer remote instruction, we don't need those traditional snow days like we would in the past. Right. So that was just kind of the catalyst that brought this to the discussion. And we just wanted to throw it out there just to hear everyone's thoughts and kind of see what the possibilities were.
Gotcha.
Agreed.
So does the question I just asked then, Mike, assist, or is it moot?
I think it's a fair question, Dr. Perrin. And again, I think like Mike said, I think it's the type of thing where, again, you get the sense from the staff and from the student body and from the school customers, if there's a need just to relax a little bit, and especially if we get a pretty significant snowstorm, just giving you the discretion from time to time, rather than to have a remote learning day, to make it an official snow day. And if we could build 1 or 2 days into the calendar, I personally think that has some merit to it. Some of the other districts that did it, and I know most of them, I think, were out of state, but they were very, very popular among, I think, just about everybody, all the school stakeholders, including the staff. I'll shut up now and let the teachers talk.
Yeah. So my question is, and I'm certainly, like I said, I'm not opposed to fun in the snow. I just want to make sure that we're, it's building a calendar, the kind of we can operate within, and it makes sense.
Sure.
So my question was really about, I guess it was really alluding to Al, can both of those things occur? Like if
Yeah.
if there's remote learning that day, how much screen time are we requiring, or is there then a whole bunch of time where that can also still occur? Because it's a question that I just wanted to hear the answer to, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Good
I was
question.
asking teachers today their opinions, does anybody feel strongly one way or the other? I know as specials teachers, we were told no more than 20 minutes for an activity on the snow days and then the stay-at-home days. And I also know the gym teacher, the librarian, and myself all said go play in the snow as part of what they were supposed to do anyway. The classroom teachers that I were talking to, we kind of said it can range as far as actual screen time. It can range anywhere between an hour and 3 hours. And a lot of that is more dependent on the kids and what they're actually going to do. She said a lot of the one teacher that was helping me add it up, she said a lot of the kids would check in and then check out, both mentally and checking out of the computer. But so most of the teachers that I was able to get a chance to talk to today are in favor of keeping the virtual snow days, with the understanding that the learning that day may not be as rigorous because we do still want them the ability to go play in the snow. Does that help, Dr. Perrin?
Oh yeah, I mean everything that you all are saying is very relevant, and it's why I asked the question, just to hear the kinds of things that you're sharing.
Yeah.
Some of the other things. Okay,
yeah.
Go ahead, Aksa.
I also wanted to add, I mean, there's a couple of factors. Like, I mean, for one, because of COVID, every student had a device this year. I mean, is that something that's going to be happening next year? And if not, then, it'd be harder to do the remote learning if we didn't have devices for our students. I think we kind of planned for it. And I think, like Leslie said, it's very varied on terms of what they already had planned. And if it was a review things, and every, from my grade in kindergarten all the way up past Sean's, things are a little bit different, and things that can be individual. I mean, I think, certain things there are definitely some families that wanted to play in the snow, and other ones that are going to be still shuffled to daycare regardless and may not be in the snow, or parents that aren't still have to go to work. So they may not get that, or they'll have to do it later like everybody else, or, our other families that economically aren't able to do that kind of stuff. So I think it definitely has merit, and luckily we weren't hit with so far. It's just middle of January, but something that would do
knock on that harder, will you?
Yeah. I'll hit my head, but
yeah.
I mean, I think it's nice to not lose the day and not have to then, it as a teacher, it's always crazy. Like, well, I know we were supposed to have off this day, but because of this day way back in whatever, we now have school in March, so it's a constant reminder to parents and updating. And so I think we'll work with whatever.
Yeah.
As long as there's, I think it'd be nice and have guidelines to, what is expected from the district in terms of different age levels and what is appropriate for timing. I mean, no one's sitting for as long as they would to be in school for.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Sean, how about secondary?
School's calling me. You guys call?
Sean, you're muted, by the way.
Sorry, thanks. After we had our remote days earlier, Jeremy came up with a set of expectations that now are guidelines for future remote days. And ours is synchronous from 8:30 to 12 o'clock, like we do on every Friday with students. And then asynchronous things for the rest of the day. So there is when we go remote at the high school, there is a schedule that we do follow for live Zoom sessions for a while there. Just something to add that, again, in the past, we never even had, I've been here long enough to know we didn't even have snow days before. That before snow days, the reason we got the snow days in and built them in is that so we could make sure that we had made up those days before state testing. Because before we were just adding days at the end of the calendar, and that served us no purpose. And especially, a light dusting here or there is one thing, but when we get walloped with these days when we're out of school for 3 or 4 days in a row, that's why we were really excited when FIDS came, because those flexible instruction days could then guarantee that we're going to get some connection with kids. Now, as you guys said, I mean, is it possible to kind of do both things? And at the first storm, you know, have a discretion to say, yes, we have this one built-in snow day. I don't see why that can't happen, but I would hate to see the flexible instruction days go. So.
The question was brought to me, is there any way to somehow make it, you know, like on an early dismissal, it's a day, but they're not there all day. So we didn't know if there was a way that we could work it, that it's kind of like an early dismissal or a delayed start where we're not teaching a full day. So the kids, there again, they still get that time. So maybe make like a 2-hour delay schedule, but it's virtual that day, or some kind of like an early dismissal schedule. So it's still getting work in. Sorry about my dog, he wants his dinner. But they're still, you know, and again, I know the elementary teachers that I talked to are planning to lessen the workload, if you will, knowing that the kids are more interested in playing in the snow or playing video games or relaxing, the things that they typically would do on an old traditional snow day. Another question that was brought up was, are the teachers going to be required to go in to do virtual snow days? Because again, that discussion of if it's dangerous to bring the kids to school, it's dangerous for us as well, you know. So I know this year you've been very good about, you have the option when able.
Yeah, right now you have the option to come in, you know, if the roads are decent. If I close the offices because it's just really, really bad, then I really want everybody working from home, you know what I mean? So it's really that piece of it. You know, I'm certainly not opposed to, you know, to building something. The issue is, you know, making sure we're managing it in a way to kind of preserve some of the front-loaded instruction, as Sean mentioned, you know, earlier, and try to communicate as much as we can, you know, up front, so that you know, the more discretion that you have with something like this, the more of an issue it's going to become when you use that discretion, I guess. So, you know, I'm not close to the idea. I just wanted to make sure that everybody first understood why it was the way it is now, and then kind of get an understanding, with also certainly understanding where Mike and Al were coming from with the question initially, because I certainly get that aspect of it as well. You know, I'm also wondering if the feeling would be different if we haven't been saddled with COVID for a year, or if it's a normal school year and we have that. Like, I'm not sure of that difference either. Certainly, it's been different for all of us since, what was it, March 13th or March 13th of last year. We're almost coming up on a year where, you know, things have been very different. So I certainly understood the questions that came to us this year about the snow day, because it's been it's been a long haul for everybody, and I get it. So Mike, I guess, you know, the draft is what it is. I mean, I'm not opposed to working something to have the flexibility to do it, as long as we can work it in a way where it doesn't all of a sudden add a Monday, the 30th of May for everybody for that one day or something like that. You know what I mean?
No, totally understand.
So I still have to take this draft to the administrative team next Wednesday. If folks are comfortable with it, I could take this to the admin team and say, here was the discussion we had at the committee level. Is there a way that we can work in some flexibility for that? Or if folks from this committee have ideas, you can just email the group or email me and copy the group. And then we'll take a first draft to the board on February 4th. And we'll email this group what that draft will be whenever it's going to the board. I can take a look to see. I have a meeting with the county superintendents in 2 days. So I could also get a sense. I called a couple of them today just to see what other districts were doing with that, but I could get a sense of what the whole county was doing, this Thursday when I meet with them to see if anybody's doing something interesting with that flexibility, if nobody's opposed to it.
Dr. Perrin, I'm sorry. I think that sounds really good. It's much appreciated that you give it consideration. I would just say, based on some of what I heard there and just rethinking that, from time to time, and again, being a former superintendent of 10 years, I remember when we got blasted with a snowstorm and we would miss, several days consecutive and so on. My thought, and I think the spirit of what's intended from some of the people that I heard from the community was that, if it is something like that, that's a really significant thing and there's several days in a row, just having that, as Mike mentioned, a traditional good old snow day, not kind of a relaxed day or a modified day. And again, I wouldn't say that my encouragement would not be that wouldn't happen very often, but it would just, if you get a sense that everybody, all the school stakeholders could just really use a break, I would love to give you that discretion from periodically, again, not on a regular, ongoing, systemic basis, to say, you know what, we're all going to take a break, deal with the snow, have fun with the snow. And also, when it's a significant amount of snow, a lot of people, including our staff, are going to be trying to dig out, which is sometimes takes a considerable amount of time. So I appreciate your consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. Not opposed to looking at it at all. Just want to make sure that we're creating a sound instructional calendar and kind of going from there.
And I would just say, I would never want to incorporate a traditional snow day where it would lengthen the school year. If it couldn't be built in, or there couldn't be some flexibility that way, I certainly wouldn't want that to happen. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the only when I'm looking at the current draft, the only days that I would see as possibilities might be, and someone correct me if I'm picking a day where I shouldn't be picking, March 18th perhaps, or February 21st.
Yeah, I think those were, I was trying to find an old calendar, and those I think were the traditional, like, built-in snow days that we had before. Yeah.
So
I was looking at it and wondering if we took the professional development day away on September 3rd, because in my tenure here in the district, we have not always had that day off. Make that a student day, and then maybe do the Easter Thursday as the makeup day.
I would try to keep away from having the makeup attached to what people might perceive as an extended vacation, only because people tend to make plans kind of around those holidays. But I certainly have no issue saying that we're going to use flexible instructional days, and then if we just get the sense that everybody needs a break, then I call a full-out snow day and we go to school on like March 18th. You know what I mean? If that meets the spirit of what folks have been discussing.
Yeah, I would just chime in, and I'm representing Dr. Lay here for curriculum. That first day before Labor Day weekend, I guess, is what it is. That is typically to handle some of the new things that might be implemented in a year, and we tend to need that date. So I wouldn't recommend using that one as a snow date.
Two other things to mention that had been brought up with the association is that One, just Dr. Perrin, that you're aware, I think there is some discussion amongst some of the building principals about maybe a couple additional early dismissal days due to new programs, data, and other things, management systems and all that kind of stuff, and training that we do. Just when you meet with your A team, I know at some point there have been discussions, people have discussed with Nancy. I don't know if Jeremy's been in on those, but just that there might be in a couple additional early dismissal days that wouldn't affect number of days in the calendar, but obviously it would be something to be put on the calendar. So it would probably just affect our hours and minutes. Correct. Okay. Right. Yeah, just so you're aware when you talk to the A team about that. Yeah, I'll actually bring it up just in case someone's sitting there holding it in their lap and they don't bring it up. So that's in addition to the 2 halves we have built in right now? I think so. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And the second thing is that go ahead.
I was just going to reiterate that I think either built into those or including that those 2 half days be days for staff to do the data or the thing, as opposed to assigned professional development, right? I mean, I think that was the difference, as opposed to, having a half day and then not having the time to do a lot of the new initiatives and things that were discussed.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. Yeah, because you were at that meeting. Then the second thing was just, I know there was discussion about whether or not the trade day should be right before a big major holiday. Because I know, and Anne's fully aware of some of the issues of trying to get teachers to put in that time. I think we went round and around and around a bunch that this morning with discussions. I still do think that is something that we can work with Dr. Lay and Anne in terms of making sure that we make it as easy as possible for people to put that time in, so that really, I mean, the goal is so nobody really has to do anything that day. Now, we can never stop that from happening, but if we can minimize that, would be great. So, and I think that's something that we can work with Anne and Dr. Lay about.
Yeah, my understanding, Sean, too, is there's a handful of people that just choose to do that we've given them the opportunities, multiple, and they choose just outright to say, I'm coming that day. Right, so then the district then has to provide something for them to do that day. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, that's you're correct. It's easier to do that in years where we're not shut down for COVID. That was
totally understand that.
Yeah, that was.
I know some people this year that just simply forgot to do it because we were so overwhelmed with the end of the year last year with having to do the 20 hours, and then I think it kind of got mixed up as far as what counts towards the trade day and what counts towards the 20 hours. And I think that this year in particular, a lot of people just totally got confused and or forgot because there was so many other things.
The good news is when it came down to it, I think we only had 9 people. So that was actually better, I think, than last year.
Right. Yeah. So we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think in the end, I think we said, okay, we can hopefully make that day work around that holiday.
Awesome.
So, okay.
So then just to recap, then I'll take this draft to the admin team prior to taking it to the full board, and we'll take a look at. I'll talk to them about their requests for additional time that Sean brought up, and I'll talk to them about perhaps March 18th being kind of flexible, and if we would need a good old-fashioned snow day. And Mike and Al, if we simply identified one day in the calendar for that, do you think that would suffice?
I think that's a good start. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And kind of when Al and I were initially talking about it, the spirit of the conversation was like for you to have the discretion to just have that one day that you go that this is the one, because with the remote learning, with remote learning and what we're able to do with remote learning, you guys you guys can have that delayed start or early dismissal, or like, you know, you can just say, okay, you know, part of your activities for today is to go outside and play in the snow for 2 hours, or whatever you guys decide, and still be able to count that instructional day. But yeah, that was what we were thinking. So
awesome. Yeah, we can do that for sure. All right, so we'll do that, and then post A team, then we'll resend and call it draft 3. We'll send it out to all of you in this group before we take it to the board for information. And we're looking at February 4th as information for the board. And then they would vote on it. I believe it's the 18th of February.
16th.
16th?
16th.
Oh, okay. When's the first board meeting in February, Jan?
I think it's the 4th. No, February 1st.
Oh, February 1st? Okay.
Yeah, and then the 15th is President's Day. So
Okay.
that it would be Tuesday the 16th is the next board meeting.
Okay. So be information on the 1st of February, action item on the 16th of February.
Sounds good.
Is there anything that we missed? And thanks, Alan, Mike, for bringing up the snow day question. And I'll also check with the county group this Thursday and see what other folks are doing as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thanks everybody. Appreciate you all joining us this afternoon.
Take care, everyone.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you guys next month.
Everyone.
Yeah, we'll see you.